Good morning. My name is Mark Wellner. I'm a master gardener from Camden County. I go out periodically to help people learn how to build beds and talk about organics because I'm a organic gardener. First, what we're going to do today, hopefully you learn a little bit about what organics means, what sustainability means. You'll learn about some soil amendments, and you'll also learn about the do's and don'ts with pesticides and herbicides and so forth. We'll talk about preparing a bed area. You can see this area is already prepared, and we'll talk about that. And last but not least, and the most important, is that we're going to build a bed, and we're going to get 36 or 38 beds built today, hopefully. First, organics is a state of mind as far as I'm concerned. And since I'm a master gardener, I'm going to tell you these are my thoughts and my opinions. As a master gardener for Camden County, we're obliged to provide both sides of the coin, but we're concentrating on organics here today. Organic materials, use of organic materials is controlled by the Organic Materials Review Institute, which is OMRI. So if you see something that's OMRI labeled, normally it's approved for being used in organics. You can take almost any property and over a 3-year period, you can convert it to an organic piece of ground, barring, super fun problems and stuff like that. The farmers that are turning land into organic farms takes 3 years to convert a field by tilling it and applying all the proper amendments and so forth, and getting it tested to make sure all the materials that were bad or possibly questionable are out of the system. My philosophy is do no harm. It's kind of like your doctor, do no harm. You do no harm to the land, you do no harm to the environment, and you go from there. Soil amendments, everybody shoulda, woulda, coulda got one of these sheets that talks about different organic soil amendments, and I'll give you a few examples. You have things like alfalfa meal, blood meal, bone meal, bat gano, in case you don't know what that is, that's poop. Mushroom compost, cottonseed meal, and so forth. Leaf mold, which is nothing more than decomposing leaves, but they sell it in bags, but you can also make it in a composter if you like. So before it's over, you can get this list and take a look at it and see all the different components. Now, one thing I've learned in the last few years is that garbage in is garbage out. I am a believer in using manure, cow manure, horse manure, chicken manure. I don't have any bat gano, but I have used those other things. What I mean by garbage in, garbage out, if you go to a horse farm and the horses are not eating, quote, organic hay, or they're eating or pasturing on a farm that's not taken care of, their residue is going to be not as good as it should be. So always keep that in mind. And I mean, it's put a different flavor on what I do when I buy things, because now I'm wondering, how good is this that I'm buying? Just because it's cow manure doesn't mean it's organic cow manure, so to speak. But with that in mind, we have to be practical. And I heard Gwen give a little class over at the GMO group that we participate in, and she talked about financial capability. Sometimes organics are related to financial capability. We'll talk about it with the kind of wood we use, the mulch we use, what we put down under to make the bed area ready-made. So you can only do your best based on your financial capabilities. The other thing we want to talk a little bit about is application of pesticides, herbicides, and those kind of things on your crops, plants, shrubs, flowers, whatever. Again, do no harm. You're putting all this stuff down. Over the last 10 years, my kind of yard is totally organic. Do I have clover? Yes. Do I have bugs on my vegetables? Yes. But they're not near aggressive or as bad as they were when I started, because I used to use pesticides. I used to use these things, and I killed everything. I killed the good bugs, I killed the bad bugs, I killed the worms, I killed everything that makes your property and your environment alive to support this organic system. Now I use things like beneficial nematodes. These are like little microscopic worms that you spray down with a hose-in sprayer onto your lawn or your garden, and they burrow in and they take care of things like the Japanese beetle larva and the flea beetle larva, and they prevent all these things from happening. And they don't hurt the worms, they don't the earthworms, they don't hurt you, they don't hurt your land and your property. They're a natural thing that have been developed. I also use corn gluten as a preventer of pre-emergence. You know, crabgrass is a wonderful thing. It'll grow anywhere, just instantly. So over the years, I used to use the bad stuff to keep the crabgrass out. Now I'm using corn gluten, which is nothing more than a byproduct of the corn industry. But remember, I just said, you got to know where this stuff comes from. We have genetically modified corn out there in the world, which has an herbicide built into it. So is now my corn gluten from that corn, or is it from the good corn? You know, you don't know. You have to keep looking into it. So these are the things that you have to think about when you're involved in organics and involved what you're going to do. And again, it's also going to be a financial constraint. Not everybody's independently wealthy and can do everything that they want to do immediately. That's creating the right environment. So you get a lot of good bugs, you get good soil, you get birds flying around, you got things going on that helps your plant survive. The other thing we should talk about a little bit is about plant spacing. I've been a proponent of Mel Bartholomew. He's a square foot gardener guy, infamous for that. He's been doing it for like 30, 40 years. Personally, I find the spacing a little close, because if you get 4 tomato plants in a 4x4 square, by the end of the season, they're bigger than me and the box and everything else. So there's no airflow. So in my case, in New Jersey, it tends to build a little more disease problems in there. So keep those things in mind. When I deal with, if I get a bug on my plant, first thing I do is I look all around, try to get rid of any eggs that I see. I hand pick, drop them in some soapy water, and it takes care of the business. So keep that in mind. Also, cleanliness and hygiene. Years ago, there was a guy that proposed using chewing tobacco to make a solution which would draw out the nicotine out of the tobacco, and you spray it on your plants, and nicotine will kill bugs. Okay? But what I didn't know, because I was a novice gardener back then, is that the tomato mosaic virus, or tobacco mosaic virus, comes from people who smoke using their hands and touching the plants, and gee, I'm spraying this stuff on my plants. How smart is that? So I stopped doing that. Again, time and education. That's all. Now let's talk about picking an area. I'm standing in a beautiful sunny area right now. You need a good 8 hours for vegetables. You can get away with 6 depending on whether it's a cold crop, something like cabbage or lettuce, or some of those spring and fall crops. But tomatoes, cucumbers, all the hardy things that we usually like to grow in the summer need those 8 hours. You need good friable soil, which we're going to add to these beds. There's a pile of it back there. The ladies picked organic mushroom compost and premium topsoil. And again, you got to know what's in the soil, but that should be a great mix to get you guys started in this plot here. You have to have access to water. I think they ran a water line here so you guys can haul your buckets or run your hoses or whatever. You got to have that. So those are, and good soil, like I said. those are basically the three things that's going to make your garden good and functioning. They have also something that you would do if you're going to make a raised bed would be set up to where under here, I think somebody told me there's like 6 or 7 inches of mulch under here that I'm standing on. And under that, they put cardboard. You can also use newspaper, probably 8, 10, 12 thicknesses of black newspaper. Don't use the colored. And put that down in wherever you're going to put your bed. You put that down first, the cardboard. You can use mulch or you don't have to use mulch. You build your bed, you drop it down there. You could take it and put it in the middle of this lawn right over here. You're not going to get any grass coming up through because the newspaper, the cardboard is going to smother anything that's possibly under there. And you put the dirt on top of there and you're good to go. So now you know basically what it takes to set up your area. Let's go in and talk about materials. The gentleman over here asked me a question. What is this? Do we use pressure treated wood? Never, ever, ever use pressure treated wood specifically for edible crops of any kind. I guess if you're on a budget and you had to use it to outline your beds or something that's flowers or shrubs or something, I guess you could. I wouldn't. I just don't support that. Again, back to the cost. A 4x4 bed of pine will run you about, as it's set, 4 feet by 4 feet, 12 inches high, 2 inches thick. It's going to run you an average of $25, $26 per bed for that material. So if you multiply that by 3 with what we have out here, you can tell what each of these beds cost, just to lay it out. That doesn't include the soil. Okay. Now you take that same 4x4 bed in cedar, which I prefer, but becomes costly, is $50 per bed. So you've doubled your cost. Now you can also use a material called Trex, which I happen to have some. It's that I call it plastic wood. It's a mix of wood fibers and plastic that they sell for decking and virtually doesn't degrade. You can use that, but that's going to be another 20% on top of the cedar. So again, dollars and cents. The other thing about Trex is it's reusing stuff that we shouldn't be using anyway, which is plastic. So it's not quite up the sustainable alley if we're looking at that. Okay. By the way, I didn't say if there's any questions, feel free to ask. You don't have to just let me talk. Again, now you need to know your wood sizes. This is a 2x4. Anybody know how big a 2x4 really is? It's 1 3/4 by 3.5. That's the actual dimension. Okay. So when you're putting these beds together, and you will see some pieces here. I'll flip on my sample bed up there. You see a little part of the 2x4 sticking up. Because mathematically, if you cut 4 of these pieces a foot long, and you're putting it inside a 12-inch piece, well, it's supposed to be exactly, well, it's not 12 inches because that 12 by is really only 11 1/4. So that's why we have 3/4 sticking out the top. So if you think about these math issues, you resolve it before you build a bed. If you don't, then you're going to get more frustrated than I do. Okay. The other thing is the guys, was it DPW guys? Yep. Have done a wonderful job cutting all this wood and getting it all here and pre-drilling holes and everything. But I asked them to double check the links on the 12-foot boards, because I did a sample one at my shop when I was building this jig, and what happened is it's 12 foot 1 inches, 12 foot 3/4 inches, 12 foot 1 1/4 inches. So now if you took 2 of them from the store, put them down, screwed them together, your bed's going to look kind of like a trapezoid. Let's say you got a long one on one side and a short one on the other side. Not a good thing. So always check that. Now, if you get into something like cedar, unless you're real rich, you won't buy a 2x. They sell them in 5/4, which means they're 1 1/4 thick. And they truly are 1 1/4 thick. So again, check your dimensions before you use it. Now, these guys did a great job of cutting these in square. We did a project in Camden a couple years ago, and we had one of the big box stores pre-cut all our wood, which you, ladies and gentlemen, could do. If you don't have a saw and you don't want to do that, just make sure they cut them square, okay? Because if your board is like this when they cut it, and I'm exaggerating, and you put it up and you got the other one that's like this, and they meet on the end, you're looking really funky, okay? So just double check that, the squareness of a board. Okay, enough about the materials. Are there any questions up to this point? Wow, okay.
I'll ask one more.
Go ahead. Don't stump me.
They took the poison out of the pressure treated market. Why can't you use that?
Well, it's your definition of poison, I think.
Arsenic. They used to use arsenic.
Right, but the material they're using is not as bad, but it's like, do I use nerve gas, or do I use Roundup, or do I use corn gluten? I mean, I can't say that it's not going to leach and not going to give you a problem, so I'm not going to use it. Excellent question. Excellent question. Okay. What's the difference between organic and natural? Anybody know that? No hands. Come on, Gwen. Okay.
Organic has to be certified so that you really know for sure, and there's all kinds of studies that they have to do on their property or what they're selling, and natural means nothing.
Exactly. That's the point. Marketing is marketing and is marketing. They want you to buy this product. Oh, it's all natural. Okay, what does that mean? Cow manure is all natural, but what did the cow eat that gave me the manure? Okay, so again, little games we play out there. Everybody, before you leave, hopefully you get a handout of 5 raised beds.